I don't know yet. That's up for debate, but you gotta find your way to survive. But I don't want you, Shelly, I don't want you to just survive and be unhappy. That's not okay.
Well, here's like, now that I'm kind of thinking about it, where it really happened was I remember after I left TNA, I just did the acting thing for a few years. And then I went back to wrestling. So I just took some time off. I think it was about almost 3 years. And I remember, I'll never forget, I went to this show here in SoCal. It's called CWF Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I went there specifically because I used to have a crush on Colt Cabana back in the day. So I went there specifically just to see him perform because I was being creepy. And I was so shocked on how I left that show because it wasn't even about him. It was about these people here in SoCal because I had moved away from SoCal to go to WWE, to go to OVW. And then when I came back, like I said, it was about 3 years that I didn't do wrestling after, or like 4 years, because I came back, did TNA for about a year, and then 3 years after that, didn't have anything to do with wrestling. So I didn't see these people who like I started with. One is like Scorpio Sky, who I love seeing that's in AEW and is doing so well. People like Rick Knox, the referee, like he was just so awesome back in the day. And Scorpio Sky was my first friend in wrestling, like my first friend in wrestling. And so, yeah, real quick, side note, before I even knew how to become a wrestler and that you go to wrestling school, I went to this mall in Ontario. I grew up in Ontario, and it's called Ontario Mills. And there was this, you know, those little carts that are like in the middle of the mall, like they're not really a store, but they're because they have a little cart.
The kiosks, yeah.
Yeah, the kiosks. And there was one that had like wrestling stuff. And so I'd always go there because I loved wrestling. And Scorpio Sky and this referee that used to ref here in SoCal named Chris Massey, they worked it. And so they got to know me and I got to know them because I'd always go there. And so when I became a wrestler, it was like, oh my gosh, like, yeah, dude, totally. So when I went to the CWF show, people like Scorpio Sky were there. I was introduced to this wrestler named Nick Madrid, and I just thought he was so freaking awesome. And Big Duke, oh my God. Like, I was just like, this is what wrestling, and then it gave me hope that like, I didn't have to be with TNA or WWE. I could restart my career and go back to the basics, where it all started, here in SoCal. And that's what I did. Like I bossed my way on that CWF show. I started doing indie bookings. And then it wasn't just SoCal anymore. I was traveling the world doing indies. And then like I got to meet cool people like you and me. That's how we met because I was working the indies and that's how we were able to be around each other. And, you know, it just was really like this, like, oh God, I fell in love with wrestling again because I felt like there was no agenda or hidden meaning or ties to it. It was just freaking wrestling, like just wrestling. And I loved it. I would be in the most rinky dink shows with hardly anyone there, but it didn't matter. Like, I just loved it so much. And then the longer I did it, the more I saw, even in little tiny companies, like the corruption, the people screwing each other over, everything that made me just disgusted when I was on TV. And I used to think that's because you're on TV and like, okay, yeah, there's a lot of money, you want your spot. But when I saw it and like, when these dudes over here are getting paid $10, if not that, and they're screwing people over, screwing each other's boyfriends or girlfriends, all this drama. And I was just like, what the hell? And a moment that stands out to me is I was wrestling in Vegas and I showed up, you know, driving from California. So it's like hours of driving, getting to the show, that whole tiredness. And I just remember I dropped my bag down. I said, so can we go over this match? Because I just want to get it over with because all you guys are faking phony bitches and I'm tired of being around you. And everyone was like, what? Because I was known as Miss Positive and, you know, bringing good energy. But at that point, the hardening was just there. And ever since then, I haven't gotten it back. And it bothers me because it's not just wrestling, it's me in my everyday life. When I'm sitting by myself, I don't feel that joy I used to feel anymore. And then maybe it does make me resent wrestling because that's what triggered me to like go down that path. And I just hate it so much that I can't read. And I have moments where I'll feel it for a little bit and it's like almost like a manicky thing. Yeah, okay, I got this, no, whatever. And then all of a sudden it wears off and then I'm back to just being, ugh.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Like around what time in your life was that turn where you haven't turned it back on yet? Like, because it's going to lead to something. So like around what year was this?
2014.
Okay. Okay. I was going to lead with that. Maybe 2014 was like kind of weird. I was already, this is maybe 2-3 years only, so still a baby. Just started doing Shine and all the bigger shows. And I would say, and I talk about it with my boyfriend too, because this is something he would agree with everything you're saying and what I'm about to say. So there was something that happened maybe around like 2016, 2017. So I've kind of had my own little dip. I had an injury, which everybody gets depressed when they're injured. It was the first time I actually took a break from wrestling because I need surgery. But when I came back, the business was so different to where like it's almost like before I could handle the bullshit, but then like the bullshit was getting too overwhelming. And I think when I talk about like wrestling as family, that's what I mean. I think that's what it is. That's why you feel good. That's why you have that feeling of feeling good about wrestling, because you saw Scorpio Sky and so, and you felt good despite going there and just creep on Colt Cabana, you know, like you were there and you're like, oh my God, yeah, I love this, blah, 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 because I do the same thing.